Ladies and gentlemen, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you the greatest fire chief in the history of the world, Fire Chief Sheldon Gilbert.
Can't top that. Well, good morning, and thank you for having us here. It's a privilege to be here today. Thank you, Supervisor Carson, for initiating this. This is an important discussion, and this is a timely discussion. It was just a few days ago, 20 years ago, that we had one of the worst fires in United States history that destroyed over 3,000 homes, killed 25 civilians, and did millions and had ultimately billions of dollars of impact on our local and state economy. And I think it's important to understand that a lot of what we're talking about today is a result of how these communities and this county responded after those natural disasters, or and in one case, a man-made disaster. And when you talk about the different things we're discussing here, I'm a visual person. I think if you visualize it as a wheel with spokes, it makes sense that the county is the hub of that wheel, but each of the cities, districts, and jurisdictions in this county are a spoke in the wheel. And that hub has very little purpose if we're not tied in with those spokes, meaning that we have to have relationships and coordinated approaches and standardized policies. And after the Oakland Hills firestorm, when a number of legislators, local and state, lost their homes, Senator Petrus introduced the Standard Emergency Management System legislation that ultimately forms how we do business around that spoke in the wheel. That subsequently has been adopted by the nation as the National Incident Management System. And so this is where it all started. And this is where we need to exercise it, and I believe take it to the next level in the next generation. So just as the county is a wheel with the spokes tying into the hub, the state is a hub where 58 counties tie into that. And the concept is simply this. You have a wonderful emergency response system in Berkeley and Oakland. And when their resources are exceeded, they then come to the county. And much like the sheriff, I have responsibility for coordinating those resources, those mutual aid resources at the county and also within that region, from Del Norte County down to Monterey, that whole coastal area of the state. So we exercise our city resources, then we exercise our county resources, and then we exercise our state resources, and then if needed, we exercise our federal resources. That is an integrated common communication system that is a direct result of what happened in '89 and '91. It did not exist prior to that. So when people ask, and one of the main questions I get is, are we better prepared than we were? And the answer is absolutely. We have relationships and automatic aid agreements and a progressive sheriff and progressive government officials at all levels who have made us develop this integrated system. We exercise it on a regular basis. The state of California has a mutual aid system that is not paralleled in the world. We can move thousands of resources within 24 hours up and down the state, unfortunately, because we've had so much experience with wildfires, earthquakes, and other disasters. So it's important to know that you have a lot of resources in place. We have a standardized language. Our interoperability communication is better than it was in '91. We do have statewide communication plans. We're on the verge of implementing an East Bay regional communication system that's going to tie together the jurisdictions within Alameda County and Contra Costa County at a level that we've never been before. We have impacted national standards on radio systems so that even disparate systems are now compatible and can talk to one another. We've done extensive training with the fire departments in Oakland, Berkeley, Alameda County to make sure that we have compatible fittings, compatible training, aligned expectations on radio communications and operations. So a lot of good work has been done. But it still comes down to the three basic components of really dealing with emergency management. And the first one is preparedness. And that really lies with us partnering with you. And that's why you're here today, and that's why we're here today. There are some tremendous resources up and down the halls today that you can take advantage of that will help you prepare as an individual. That's the first step. You need to be prepared as an individual, as the sheriff said, for that 72 to 96 hours. If we learned anything over the last several years, as we watched what happened with Katrina, as we watched what happened with the World Trade Center, as we watched what happened with other natural disasters and man-made disasters, help doesn't come as quickly as people think it's going to come from the federal government. So we need to be prepared at the local and the county and the state level to sustain ourselves. The second thing you need to do is you need to take a leadership role. If you took the time to be here today and you care enough to be here today, you are a partner we want to be with because you're going to go back and impact your neighborhood. So once you're prepared, you need to prepare your neighborhood. at, and the individual fire departments that are going to come up and talk, I'm sure we'll have some things to say, and there's some resources out there, how you can obtain that. And then we need to be prepared as a county and as multiple jurisdictions. And we're going to continue to do those drills as the sheriff said. And then there's one other component that I want to just talk to briefly so you understand the importance of this system. While the cities and the county and the state all talk, there are different areas of responsibility for our elected officials. They have a lot of responsibility on their shoulders at each of those levels. It is the sheriff and the fire chief and police chief's jobs to make sure that we get accurate information to the city officials, that we request the right amount of resources, that we mitigate the emergency in a safe and a timely manner. But they have some significant responsibilities about giving us emergency powers to do what we need to do as far as purchasing authority, working with the community, doing things outside of our normal operating procedures. Declaring disasters or declaring emergencies at the city, county, state level are dependent on them being able to do that. And you say, well, why is it so important that we do this and practice this? Because how will we do this at the city level and the county level? Well, to determine where we're at in the queue at the state level and the federal level. They who are prepared, they who are organized, and they who have good intelligence going up and down the pipeline will get the resources first. We want to make sure that we are at the front of that line and that we are in order and that we are responding in an adequate fashion so those resources will pour into the Bay Area quickly. So those are the types of things that we're here to partner with you on today. We do a lot of the things that the sheriff does at that county level. You're going to hear in a few minutes about what happens at your local city level, and I want you to make sure you take advantage of that. There's tables out here today. But after we prepare and after we respond, the last component that I want to talk briefly about is recovery. Recovery is ultimately what it takes to get us from the state of emergency to a state of functioning as we did prior to the emergency. That's directly related to how we prepared and how we responded. Hopefully we mitigated the emergency at a very small level, but there's going to be recovery and there's going to be cleanup. And the group that I'm going to introduce next is a fundamental, innovative partner in how we conduct that recovery and that cleanup. This county, our governing body, and our sheriff have been very, very progressive to make sure we have agreements in place so we can get resources in. We're already pre-approved and already in the pipeline with FEMA and the state to get things happening on the ground, to get your life back to normal so that we can get back to work, get our economy and our communities back on a solid footing. And so that is the last thing, is we need to make sure we have the agreements in place so that we can come in after we've responded and we can recover. That has to do with your local community, your business, your schools, your faith-based communities, your nonprofits, all the different people who have a part to play in that recovery effort. So I hope that that gives you just a little clear snapshot picture of how the city, county, state, federal system works together and where we make those decisions to make things happen in a timely manner. And with that, I'm going to invite Pat up at this point to talk a little bit about the Drc Group, which is a group that works extensively with the county to help us get the resources we need to do what I would call the heavy lifting when it comes to recovery. She's a wonderful partner. She's a longtime affiliate with Alameda County, and we're lucky to have her in the toolbox to be able to utilize those services. So, thank you.